Okay, so we're going to present the assignment for this week. I'm just going to make a little disclaimer. Uh, I made this based on what we already seen in class. I haven't seen class number 4 because I wanted to make sure that everything it's well understood, and I don't want to cheat myself. That being said, let's start with the case. We have Alex Thompson is a 24-year-old male, 185 in height, 88 kilograms weight. He is a 5-year national javelin thrower. He has had before, like previous season, minor injury on his shoulder. Didn't say what it has, what it was. Supposedly currently is in recovery. He has like good upper strength, and then he has also a good explosive strength on the upper body, and excellent technique in regards to javelin throw. In the improvements he needs to make, it's like the core stability, the lower body strength and reactive strength. Basically, those are the areas for improvement, and that's why we're going to focus in this mesocycle. Before going to the mesocycle, we have to take into consideration certain aspects. On the off season, you would want to do 4-day week, 4 days per week on the mesocycle, like from weeks 1 to 3 and 4 to 6, 2 lower days and 1 and 2 days for the upper body. In regards to that, in the accumulation phase, which is basically now in the off season, you would increase the volume. The intensity is not that high, okay? And when you pass and you go through the intensification phase or close to the season or in season, you diminish the volume and increase in intensity to keep the strength in the upper limits. Then, as it said, there are certain rules before making a mesocycle. Basically, the A movement is the one that's going to dictate the rest of the workout, in which terms the sets that you put on the A series, the A exercise, will dictate the rest. The rest of the series, like B, C, and D, whatever, they should be in sets, the same amount of sets or less, in reps, the same amount of reps or more, in rest, same amount of rest or less. Okay, those are the general things into consideration for both lower and upper body regarding the exercise programming. And for the upper body, we have another rules that you have to follow in order to make sure you're not overstressing the shoulder and you're getting the best of it. Okay. Something that I was going to say, I didn't say it, is that like in the off season, the A series would be 3 to 10 sets. The repetitions will be from 1 to 12, and the rest will be from 90 to 120 in the upper body and from 120 to 180 in the lower body. As I said before, this will dictate the rest of the exercises and reps, sets, rest, etc. On the accumulation phase, you would use from 90 to 120 on the upper body and from 120 to 180 seconds on the lower body for the rest. As I was saying before, for the upper body, we have certain rules. That first rule is the 180-degree rule. That means that you have to work all 180-degree angle for the shoulder. Okay, starting from the up, starting from head to toes, That's how strength is developed. So you start on the overhead press, then you go to the incline, bench, dips, basically, and you will cover the whole 180-degree angles. But also you have to take into consideration that combining A series with B series, you need a 90-degree angle too. So what does that mean? If you have an overhead press on main lift A1, you have to have um, a bench press on exercise B1. Why is that? You have to keep the 90-degree rule. If you have incline bench press, you could have decline bench press, incline bench press, you can have dips. Um, if you have bench press on the A series, you can have it, it's either overhead press with dumbbells or decline. But you won't do like main exercise and in one plane and then another main exercise in a higher plane. Otherwise, that's not good. That being said, this is the program that I made for weeks 1 to 3. Okay, there will be 2 lower body days and 2 upper body days. I divide it into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have it off because in the middle of the week you want to have 1 day off. That will increase the supercompensation. So we'll start with the lower body. The back squat is the main lift, and it has to be present on at least 1 day of the lower body. So we'll do a back squat 4 by 8, as in, because this would be on a functional hypertrophy level or range. That's why we would do this. You would want to make an eccentric phase, which will allow to increase the strength of the athlete, which he has lower body strength. So that's why I put 4 by 8 on a tempo 4010 and 120 seconds rest. For the B series, you have to make it's mostly on dumbbells, and you have to make a regression. So that's split squat, elevated front foot, 15 centimeters or 6 inches, because you don't want to make like a Bulgarian split squat. You have to take it from lower to higher in the degree of neurological difficulty. Okay, that's why you do this, and that's B1, split squat, elevated front foot, and B2, you do standing leg raise. I don't want to make I want to make that leg raise standing because it reduces the stress on the back. That's why I prefer to do it that way. And for the B series would be 4 by 10. You see, it's the same amount of sets, increase amount of repetitions. The eccentric part is a little bit less, and the rest is 60 seconds. And why is that? Because it's unilateral and unilateral. The B series go from 60 seconds to 90 seconds. Depends on is unilateral, bilateral, or bilateral. So that's why I put 60 seconds rest. On the C series, C1, you have a lateral step up because you want to work in another plane that hasn't been worked yet. And seated seated calf raise. Okay. This would be less sets, more reps. The rest is lower, and when you finished, I want to finish with a 20-minute standing bicycle in a zone 2. that would allow me to the that would allow me to take that lactate and reoxidate it into pyruvate and go through the Krebs cycle and use it as fuel. And that would also reduce the pain after doing exercises. That's why I recommend it most of the time, well, basically always. And then for Tuesday, we have the upper body. We'll do overhead press. We're starting on basically 180 degrees, 5 by 5. And on the A2, you have chin up, or basically pull up with a supination. And I'll recommend this, do it in a thick bar. In that way, we will be working the forearms right away without making like another exercise directly for the forearms. So we're like including 2 exercises in one. You want to maximize the potential of all exercises. So on this one, you would do 5 by 5, 3, 0, 1, because it says that as far on the upper body, when you're as far of the season, you would do less eccentric, or at least that's what I do. And the rest would be 90 seconds. I didn't say that the chin up is shoulder width. You cannot do it wide. It's basically impossible. Then, when you have the overhead press, you do the 90-degree rule. That would be a floor dumbbell press, 3 by 10. So you lower the sets, you increase the reps. You don't have that amount of eccentric phase, and you have basically dumbbell row, hand bench, 3 by 10 also. Then when you have the overhead press, you would want to work the arm. So that's why I have the easy bar curl biceps. Again, same amount of sets, more amount of reps. The rest time is less. And so you have the easy bar and you have the high pulley tricep pull down. Why? Because here you have it on a basically horizontal level. It doesn't matter if you're this way, it would be horizontal. So then you want to do it a vertical, keeping always 90-degree angle. For the D series, I want to make some isometric neck extension. So you would put a band in the back of your head and just hold it there isometrically, because basically, and what it says is that the neck also strengthens and the gains and the strength of the upper body when you do it. Okay, I would finish. The next, you will do less sets, 2 by 20 seconds, and 30 seconds rest. To finish, to recover, you will do some indoor row machine in a zone 2 level. Also, you're working much more on the upper body, so you would want to work, recover that area more than the lower body on that day. Wednesday, we have it off. Tuesday, we'll go to the second day of the lower body. On each week, you have to have it's either a deadlift or a front squat. So we already have the back squat, which has to be in one day of the training mesocycle. So that's why I put it there. Now we have it on the lower body. So we make a deadlift 4 by 6, no more than 6. Otherwise, he'll get tired, and the technique is going to go low, and injuries can come, and the strength is not the same. That's why you keep it on a high level athlete just by 6. Okay, on that one you do it 4 seconds eccentric, 1 second isometric, and as fast as you can on the concentric phase. Okay, you rest 120 seconds. For the B series, you'll do a dumbbell split squat. It's a little bit more demanding than the elevated. So we do it this way this day. 4 by 10, as it says same amount of sets, more amount of repetitions, keeping always the same principles. 301 and a lying leg curl, same amount of sets and repetitions, and you rest 75 seconds. And why is that? Because you have unilateral, bilateral, so it's 75 seconds. Then you do seated calf raise. I messed up here. Seated calf raise 3 by 12 and a high pulley wood chop. And why is that? Because you would want to work on a deadlift. You would want to work is either a calf exercise. I should have put standing calf raise. And so you would do a high pulley wood chop. Why is that? Because it has great correspondence to the movement of throwing the javelin. So you do this and you're strengthening the core on the same movement pattern that you do when you throw the javelin. That's why I put it this way. And you can do 20 minutes on a treadmill on a slow pace just to recover and do some foam roller. Okay. Friday upper body, you will do bench press. Why is that? Because you have overhead press on day 1 of upper body. You keep the 90-degree rule. You do with bench press. Okay, and that would be 4 by 6. And this is for advanced athletes, and you can consider a 5-year-old national javelin thrower advanced athlete. So that's why no more than 6. 2 0x, and then you'll do a pull-up on a neutral shoulder, because every time you do a exercise that doesn't allow whole or free mobility of the scapula, you have to have the pull-up has to be on a neutral position. That would avoid injury on the shoulder. That's why you have a pull-up neutral position and shoulder width. For the B series, you will have a dumbbell shoulder press. You work it upstairs, but it's dumbbell, it's not bar, it's less demanding. And you have a half knee cable row. And why is that? Because when you're in a half knee cable row, you also are working the core muscles, and that's something that we want to work, because it says we have to work on the core muscles of this athlete. He's not that strong, he's not that strong on the core muscles. So I decided that we can work 2 aspects on one exercise. That's why I put it at half knee cable row. You do 3 by 10, same rule, 75 seconds. Why? Bilateral, unilateral. C1, you have external rotation over knee, and that's also a rule that if you have a bench press or an exercise that restricts the scapular movement, you have to have like external rotation exercise, and that would be external rotation over knee. 2 by 12, and C2, you have a trap 3. Okay, you're working the whole external rotators of the shoulder. That's first mesocycle, weeks 1 to 3, and then we'll move to weeks 4 to 6. From week 4 to 6, we will work always back squat, but on this one will be squat number 2. What does that mean? You will work two-legged squats. If you've seen before, you work 1 back squat or 2-legged squat and single leg squat. And here is 2-legged squat and that should be back squat 4x8, and on a 4-0-1, 120 seconds rest, and on the B you'll do a searcher squat. That's a regression. Keeps making you good amount of strength, but it's a regression. It's not the same as having a back squat. That's why I put it. Also helps you to work the core. You have to be strong in the core to do a searcher squat. As I said, you have, and you want to maximize the exercises for the requirements of the athlete. Thinking without overtraining. Searcher squat 3x10, 2-0-1, 60 seconds is just one exercise, so you reduce the exercises. On the C1, you do a crossover step up. You want to work in a different plane that you've been working before. And on the C2, you have a half knee kettlebell up wood chop. Why is that? You work it on a different angle that we have before, high correspondence to the actually movement of the javelin throw, but it's way more difficult to do it upstairs than doing downstairs. So you want to work in whole planes of motion for the core, and this one you have 2x12. 2-0-1 on a rest 45 seconds. Okay? 45 seconds because it's single, unilateral. It's it's 45 seconds. Should it be 30 seconds because it's unilateral should be 30 seconds. Let me correct here. 30 seconds. Now, on Tuesday, you have day 1 of the upper body of second mesocycle. You have inclined bench press. The main lift is going to move downwards in order to get the whole 180 degrees. And then you started on the overhead press, bench press. Then you have the incline bench press, and you have it with a neutral pull-up. We already said that if you have a movement that restricts the scapula, you have to have a neutral grip, shoulder width pull-up. On B2, you will do a decline bench press. A1 is in one plane. This one, you keep using the 90-degree rule. You follow it. You don't mess with that. And I'm sorry I didn't say this. On the A series is 6x5, 20x, 90 seconds. Decline bench press and low pulley cable. Low pulley cable row, and that's because of the also planes of motion. Okay, this way, and this would be in a 45-degree angle. You can consider that mostly horizontal. And that one you would do 5x8, increasing the reps, diminishing the sets. 3-1-1, 90 seconds rest. On a C1 you can do a power raise, 3x10, and on C2 you can do lateral isoband neck. You will work the neck again. You put the band on the side of your head and you hold it there, and you will work mostly whole planes of motion, of course, each side. And that would be 3x10 on the power raise, and 3x20 seconds on the isoband neck, and it's 45 degrees. I take this as unilateral, this one as bilateral. Wednesday we said we have it off. Day 2, of the lower body. This is the front squat, because we can only have one neurological demanding exercise for the lower body per week. And those two are the deadlift and the front squat. That's why you separate them between the mesocycles. You won't put front squat and deadlift as main lifts for the same week. So on the A series, you will put a front squat 4x6, no more than 6 on the front squat, no more than 6 on the deadlift. Otherwise, the traps would get tired, and also he wouldn't keep the proper technique. 4, 1, 401, 120 seconds rest. Then you have a regression. You can do a deadlift above the kneecap. That's a regression. You ain't doing the whole deadlift. You could do it on a drop bar, on a high grip, but I think from pins above the kneecap it's enough. That's 3x8, 3, 1x, fast as you can, concentric, rest 90 seconds. Then you will have C1, you will have a wall-in anterior tibialis exercise, 3x12, and you would want to work again the core muscle. So that would be elevated front plank. You would put your feet on the bench and then you do the plank. That's way more difficult than you doing a regular plank, and that would be 3x45 seconds. You'll see that on this week you increase the intensity a little bit, and then we'll go to the Friday. That's the day number 2 of the upper body. To complete the whole 180-degree rule, you would do dips. I do dips on this athlete because, as he said, I consider this athlete an advanced athlete. So he can do dips. We know, he had like supposedly a minor shoulder injury, but it doesn't say what's going on. And it's either, if he can't do this, you have to be very careful with that and be in close contact with the athlete. It's either dips or decline. But for this moment, I'll choose dips. Okay, so you choose dips, then you can do a prone pull-up wide. In that way, we have covered all. I think I messed up. I'm sorry, I messed up. I didn't say. No. I said it well, incline bench press. But this is a close grip. I'm sorry that's why I got freezed up, because I knew I have to work the whole range of motion. It's either one close grip, then one wide. You have to double or increase the neutral grip and shoulder width. That's why this is close grip, neutral, and this is dips, pull, wide. Okay, and this is 6x5, 20x, rest 90. On the B1, it depends on the A exercise. So you would do an inclined dumbbell press on a neutral position. Okay, dumbbell is always easier than a barbell. That's why you do it this way. And in this fashion, you would still work on the 90-degree rule. Okay, B2 is a seated close grip cable row, and you do it 4x10, 2011 on a rest 90. We have already covered that thing up. Is bilateral 90 seconds. Okay, C1 and C2. You have C1 bent over lateral raise. You have dips, or you have bench press. You want to work external rotation. Okay. Um, so you will be working on bent over lateral raise and reverse fly. That way you would work always most of the of the extensors. So of the external rotator muscles. So that would be 2 by 12. Again, decreasing the sets, increasing the repetitions, and the rest will be 45 seconds. This because this is considered, this is one unilateral, this is bilateral, so it's 45 seconds. Well, basically, this is the mesocycle for this athlete. I hope I did it well. I did want to make it whole life. That's why I messed up sometimes. But I hope the concepts are clear, explained, and yeah, basically I wanted to do this in this way so I would know if I understood well or I didn't understood well. I don't want to cheat myself. I just want to learn. So thanks for your attention and have a good day.